today we'll be doing practice test, what did I say, 75, game 3. I put some PDFs of it in the chat, but this one should be about, I believe, 7 librarians. Yeah, 7 librarians. So if everyone could pull that up, that'd be great. And go ahead and take a couple minutes to kind of diagram it. So we're gonna read it out first. Anybody want to read the game and the stimulus? Can everybody see my screen? Oh, okay. Give me one second. Hello, can everybody see me real quick? Okay, I'm gonna pull up my whiteboard real quick. Give me one second. And so while we do that, we'll kind of read through this game. So say practice test 75, game 3. So practice test 75, game 3 says 7 librarians, Flynn, Gomez, Hill, Kitson, Leung, Moore, and Zahn are being scheduled for desk duty for 1 week, Monday through Saturday. The librarians will be on duty exactly one day each, one on each day, except Saturday. There'll be exactly 1 library on duty, with 2 on duty on Saturday, subject to the following constraints. Hill must be on desk duty earlier in the week than L. Both H and M must be on desk duty earlier in the week than G. F must be on desk duty earlier in the week than both K and M. K must be on desk duty earlier in the week than Z. And then finally, unless L is on desk duty on Saturday, L must be on desk duty earlier in the week than F. So we have a lot of rules there. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to kind of build out your diagram. And while you do that, I'm gonna set up mine and share it out here. So go ahead and do that. Okay, let's go through our diagram real quick. I know not everybody might be finished, but because we started a little late and there's some technical difficulties, let's go through this. So first off, what I like to do is I like to put my game pieces in the top left. So what I do here is I'll put F, G, H, K, L, M, Z here at the top left to kind of show those are the pieces I want to put in my diagram. Next, I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And on Saturday, I put 2 spots. Instead of doing the traditional where it's like having 2 Saturdays back to back, we don't want to confuse the fact that Saturday is the same day and the ordering there doesn't matter. So instead, I put 2 spots and needed to recognize that when I was making my deductions. For this game, honestly, a lot of it is deduction based because there are so many ordering rules and because it is a very large chain. So I think it's important to kind of keep all of that in mind. And sometimes you'll miss some deductions like I did here. But from here, let's go through how we diagram our rules. So after we have the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday with 2 spots, let's go to rule 1. So rule 1 says H must be on desk duty earlier in the week than L. So H before L at some point. Next, rule 2 says both H and M must be on desk duty earlier in the week than G. Rule 3 says F must be on desk earlier in the week than both K and M. Rule 4 says K must be before Z. And rule 5 is an interesting one because it says unless L equals S, then L has to be before F. So that's kind of helps us after we make our chain. So the first thing I'm going to do is make this chain of pieces, right? So here I'm going to start with F because I know F has to be before M and K, right? I know M has to be before G. So I build G out here. I know H also has to be before G, right? And L has to be after H. So I diagram that off to the side, kind of show that everything's connected. And then K has to be before Z. So we know that F has to be before M and G and also K and Z. We see what that is? Any questions on this chain? Okay. If not, let's move on to the kind of deductions we make. So the first deduction that I was able to make was that L could either be Tuesday or Saturday. So the way I thought about this was because I know if L is Saturday, L could be Saturday because of Rule 5, right? But then L can't be Friday because F. Okay, let's start with the F deduction. Sorry. So F. So we see F, right? Has to have four things. Can have F has to have four things after it. So we know F cannot be Saturday, Friday, or Thursday, right? Do we see why that is? Any questions as to why F can't be Thursday, Friday, or Saturday?
I can watch this video later, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Because you have to have M, K, G, and Z after it.
exactly. And because Saturday has two spots, you could technically have M, K, G, and Z after it. So that's why F could be Wednesday, right? So if we know F can't be Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, we then know L can also not be Thursday or Friday or Wednesday. So L cannot be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because if it's Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, that means it's coming after F, but not on a Saturday, right? So we then know L can't be Wednesday, so L could be Tuesday, but L can't be Monday either because H has to come before L, right? So L can only be Tuesday or Saturday in this game. That's one of the biggest deductions I think I made initially, because it kind of helped me go from there. Next, let's look at the first and last spots. I think that's also really helpful in these kind of relative ordering games. So we see here, because F and H are the only two that don't have anything connected before it, we then know that K, Z, M, G, and L all can't be first, right? Does that make sense to everybody? It's kind of similar to what we did last week. So that means in this Monday spot, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to follow. It's a little quick.
Okay, sorry. Do you have like the diagram down? Like
Yeah, yeah, I'm writing it down right now. I'm almost done writing it.
Sounds good. So we know that, right? We said K, Z, M, G, and L can't be first, can't be in that M spot because they have something following it. So we know they have to have like L has to come after H, G has to come after H and M and F. So we can kind of see that, okay, this first spot, there's only two spots that could be there. Next for the Saturday, there is, so we know there's going to be two spots on Saturday. So F has something that follows it, right? So if F, M, G, F, K, Z, so F can't be last. K can't be last because it has a Z after it. H can't be last because it has L and G after it. And M can't be last because it has G after it. So we know there are only three variables that could be in the two spots of Saturday, which is also really helpful. Because if you know, let's say we know L's and Tuesday. If L's and Tuesday, we know G and Z have to be here. We know H would have to be in the first spot. And we know then the F would have to be Wednesday. So that's kind of like a tangent, but that's why it's important to know that there's only going to be two in Monday spot. There'd be these three in the Saturday spot. Because there's two spots for Saturday too, which is also key. These other deductions are ones you can make, like L can't be these days, F can't be these days, and there's also some more ones like G obviously has H, F, and M before it, so G can't be Wednesday, can't be Tuesday, can't be Monday. But really, I think those kind of are unnecessary at this point, as long as you have this chain diagrammed.
Do you think we would be able to answer the questions if we did not get that entire chain, like maybe just part of it?
I think you would. I just think it would take a lot longer if that makes sense. And you'd be able to answer it correctly. It would just, I don't know if in the 8 minutes, 45 seconds, you'd be able to.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's kind of, I think, and even drawing these up here are kind of unnecessary at some time. Like, I don't like when I started getting good at like I started getting better at games, I kind of stop drawing these up here because I feel like unless they're necessary, but instead of just do okay, I know Monday can only have F or H, I know Saturday can only have L, G, Z, and then move on.
Okay.
But I think
What-
the chain is vital. Sorry, go ahead.
What what type of game is that called? Is it called ordering or that
I
chart?
would call
I'm sorry,
relative ordering.
ordering. Okay, thank you.
Honestly, for me, I never divided the games up between like ordering. I divided it up only between ordering, grouping, and combo. I never really did like the relative ordering or the linear ordering. There's different words for that because I think kind of the verbiage is confusing. But yeah, this is a relative ordering game, I'd say. I think.
Okay.
But okay. Does everybody have this initial setup done then?
Quick question, Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, the reason that we did not cross out F not going in Wednesday is because the 2 slots in Saturday?
Exactly. So theoretically could be there could still be MG and KZ after it because there's 2 spots in that Saturday.
That makes sense. Perfect. Thank you.
G and I guess only G and Z could be Saturday, but if G and Z are Saturday, and then we have like MK here and F here, and you could have L here and H here, and that could work.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions about this one? It's about the initial setup. Okay. Let's go to number 12 then. So number 12 states, which one of the following is an acceptable schedule for the librarians listed in order from Monday through Sunday? So this is your typical grab rule question. Go ahead and take a couple minutes for this, then we'll go through it together. All right, yeah, let's go over it then. So does anybody want to share their answer and kind of how they got there, like what rules they used to eliminate which answers?
I got D. I'm not sure it's correct, but that's what I got.
I think the answer is actually A. So I
Okay,
can go over it if you want me to.
yes.
For sure, I'll go over it. So first off, we're using the grab rule technique, right? So we see which one of the following is a acceptable schedule. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at our first rule and say, okay, all of these should have H before L, right? So here I'm going to go through each answer choice and say, okay, which one of these, are there any of these that don't have H before L? So A has H before L, B has H before L, C has H before L, D has H before L, but E has H after L. So I can eliminate E using rule 1. Next, I move on to rule 2 and say, okay, you'd have H and M before G. All of these actually do have H and M before G, so rule 2 didn't eliminate anything. Next, we go to rule 3 and say, okay, F has to be before M and K. So look at the answer choices and see that in answer choice C, F comes after M and K, so you can eliminate answer choice C. Next, we go to rule 4 and see that K has to be before Z. And we see in D that Z is before K, so you can eliminate D. And next, we go to rule 5. So now we're between A and B, right? And in rule 5, it says unless L equals Saturday, then L has to be before F, right? So here we see that, okay, in B, L is not on Saturday, right? So then L would have to be before F, but F's in the first spot. So that's not allowed. So A is your correct answer.
Okay,
Does that make sense, Cher?
yes, definitely. I should always say I'm quick and I need to be careful.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Are there any questions about this one? Okay, if not, go ahead and take a little minutes to the next one, and I'll move my diagram over so don't look at it if you don't want the answer immediately. So, all right, let's go over this one. I might not be finished, but like I said, I kind of want to get through this game because there was another request for another game after this. So, what we're gonna see here is this is one where deductions would help, I'd say, but honestly, I would use my chain to answer this one. So I'd go to my chain and say, well, first off, before I do the answers, anybody want to share their answer and kind of how they got there?
I was just gonna say the same for the chain.
See, I don't know.
Oh, I think the correct answer choice is E.
Okay,
Yeah. As an echo.
I don't know if this is right or like if there's a better way to go about it, but I got E, but I kind of did it just based off of the fact that like Z has so many things that need to be ahead of it that it like couldn't be that early on.
Like, so many things that have to be ahead of it or behind it.
Sorry. For Z,
Yeah.
I like ahead of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant. I see. I was thinking about like I think you meant like ahead this way, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. So there has to be so many things. I mean, technically, there's only two things that have to be behind it, though. But you're right. That's what I would do here. I'd look in this. First, I'd look at the answer choices and say, okay, we know F and H are probably both good because they're the first ones we have. We know, okay, G definitely couldn't be Tuesday because it has an M and F and an H, but that's not one of our answer choices. So then I would go like, okay, the Z has an F and K before it, so Z couldn't be in the second spot. And the correct answer choice would then be E. I think that's kind of the easiest way to go about it. So yeah, Molly, you're right. Any questions on this one? Cher, is there any like thing that tripped you up?
no, I'm just gonna do them over after class, just so I can,
Yeah, because K could theoretically be Tuesday, because you could have an F and then a K, and then an H, then everything else. Does that make sense?
yes, it makes sense. I'm just trying to follow.
No, no worries. It's all about first getting accuracy down and then speed down. It's just in the class format, it's kind of hard, get the accuracy down. All right. Any questions on number 13? Okay, if not, to number 14. So if K is on desk duty earlier in the week than M, which one of the following cannot be true? So I'm gonna move my screen over 1 second and then I'll go ahead and give you guys a couple minutes. Does somebody want to share their answer and kind of what they did to get there? James, we can't hear you if you're talking, sorry. Or is that just me? Can anybody hear James? Never mind. Cool. All right. If you want, go ahead, Sig. Sorry. Go ahead.
I answered B. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes, B is correct.
I got it again through the chain, and I think it came down to B and E, but then the stimuli said that which one of the following cannot be true. So it has to be an absolute. For the letter E, G can still be earlier than M, but because the stimuli said that K is earlier than M and M must be before G, therefore G can never be before K. Oh, sorry. Is that
Yeah.
right? Is that right?
You're right. No, that's perfect, right? That's exactly what I did. So I drew a new chain real quick where I said, okay, now that I know if K is on desk earlier than M, I then know K has to be before M and G. Right? It doesn't necessarily have to be before H and L, but it has to be before M and G. Right? And Z. So then I'll look at the answer choices and be like, okay, does any of these have like I'll look at the answer choices and say, okay, F is on desk duty earlier in the week than L. I mean, it doesn't have to be technically. We could have HLF, right? So that's still possible. G is on this earlier in the week than K. Well, we know that's not possible. So I would select B and move on. But C says, kind of go through the rest of the answer choices to make sure we kind of understand. So G is on desk duty earlier in the week than Z. So we see that that's possible because we'd have Z at the end. There's no reason we couldn't have Z at the end. Next, H is on desk duty earlier in the week than K. That's still theoretically possible. And then Z is on desk duty earlier than M. And that's possible too because we have FKZM. So the only one that isn't possible would be B. Any questions on this one?
Michael, I have a quick question. I'm sorry. I had to actually put in the variables within their spots to get it rather than just looking at my chain. Why? I don't know if you can jump in my brain, but why is that?
So you put variables like in here.
Yeah,
I get that. Did you make a new chain?
I did, but I got too confused with my chain.
Yeah, chains are confusing, and there's something I didn't do till later on, but it honestly really helped my study time. But I think putting them in just takes a lot longer because like you have to figure out what like you have to figure out examples of way each one could work. But I guess
Yeah,
because in this case B, I think it's more so because your brain might like see like, oh, this H over here, right?
yeah,
It might be yeah. The H might be earlier than like, you might think this H has to be after this K, when in reality H should be first. So that's why chains are kind of hard to draw. You have to make sure you have the correct interpretation of chains, I think is the big thing.
yes, most definitely. Is that just with practice, having that interpretation of the chains?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. As long as you, because if you make a mistake on game day, it could be like detrimental. But if you can kind of learn and practice how to do that, then I think it makes it a lot quicker rather than doing all these up here. You know,
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
no problem. So kind of like the way to read this chain, just go over that real quick if nobody's seen the chain before. So we know F has to be. So let's go over our initial chain. So we know F has to have M after it. We know F. So this is rule 3 right here, right? But then we see M also has to be before G, and H also has to be before G. So we put those kind of like in a chain with G, but this still doesn't. This means that H could still be theoretically before F. It doesn't have anything to do connect those. It only connects H and G. So hopefully that kind of helps people like realize how chains work. So let's move on to that. Are there any more questions about question 14? Okay. Let's go through 15 real quick. So 15 says if Z is on desk duty on Thursday, which one of the following must be true? Let's go through this one real quick. Like I said, we're not necessarily running low on time, but I want to get to another game. So if Z is on desk duty on Thursday, which one of the following must be true? So the correct answer for this one is A. So the reason for that is because when we put Z in Thursday, we then know that LG has to be last, has to be in Saturday, right? Remember how we just determined that at the beginning? So we know that it's kind of coming back to help us where we see that, okay, if Z is Thursday, we know L and G have to be on Saturday. So that kind of helps us form that part of the chain, right? So when looking at the answer choices, we see if Z is on destiny 30, which one is true? So A says F is on destiny earlier in the week than L. So obviously if L is Saturday and the last day, then F has to be earlier than L. Does that make sense to everybody?
Maybe I missed it. How did you deduce LG must come in Saturday if Z is in Thursday?
Yeah, so the reason we deduced L, G, and Z are the only three possible variables for Saturday, right? Because we know F can't come Saturday because it's because that's something after it. We know K can't come Saturday because it has something after it. We know H can't come Saturday because that's something after that. And we know M can't come Saturday if there's something after it, right?
No, thanks.
So at that point, we know exactly. So yeah, so at that point we know there's three variables here that could fit into the two spots on Saturday. So if one of those variables is some other part of the week, we know the other two have to be in Saturday because nothing else can be in those two spots.
No, that's great. Thank you. I
No
went
problem.
along.
I get it. Any questions on this? Okay. If there's no questions, feel free to keep shouting out or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Saturday having two spots. If you get that, that's kind of it really hurts your game and it kind of makes it hard. You could do two Saturdays here. It depends on which way your brain works. For me, if I put two Saturdays here, I might not realize that okay, like they're not necessarily in order, they're part of the same group. So I normally put two dashes there that kind of help me remind myself, if that helps, shall I? Let's go to number 16. So this one's kind of similar where if M is on desk duty on Tuesday, which one of the following must be true? Let's go over this one. Does somebody want to share their answer? I kind of know what they did to get there too.
I think this was easy because M is already fixed. That means F has to go first. And if L can't be on Tuesday, then he has to go Saturday.
Exactly. I think because we deduced that L has to be Tuesday or Saturday, I think this one is also one that's kind of a little easier because we know F and M. So we know when M's in the Tuesday spot, we know F has to be first. And we know then that L can't be before F. So L has to go Saturday. So that's kind of these are the things that must be true in this game. So it makes it easy to when the answer choice is C, that L is on destiny on Saturday. So any questions on 16? Okay. Let's go through 17 then. 17 says, if F is on desk duty earlier in the week than H, which one of the following must be true? Yeah, so let's go over this one. Josh, do you want to explain your answer and kind of how you got there?
Yeah, so I jumped in late, so hopefully. Um, so I looked at all the answer choices and I looked at our logic chain that we drew and see if those possibilities can be changed around. Like for example, look at 17 H's earlier than K. Well, no, it could be FKHM or FKHM or FKMH, or you can revert. And so I applied that process for all the answer choices, and then I got to D. E looked tempting, but I noticed that D is a must be true because it's FMHL. It can otherwise.
Yeah, so I think that's a great explanation for it. I think this is kind of like the last one, where if we know F is before H, right? We know F has to be first then, right? So we know F has to be in that first spot. If we know F has to be first, we then know L has to be Saturday because L can't come Tuesday then because L has to have H before it, F and H before it. So we know L is Saturday, and if L is Saturday, we know M has to be can't be Saturday because it has D after it, so M has to be before Saturday. Any questions on this one? Okay. I know this one is kind of a little more confusing, but I think recognizing that F is in that first spot really helps. And then realizing that, okay, then L can't be in the second spot because H has to be before it. F and H both have to be before L. So we know L has to be in that Saturday spot because we realized L could be Tuesday or Saturday. So, all right, let's move on to number 18 real quick. So 18 is our least favorite question of all. I think, which one of the following, if substituted for the constraint that the F must be on desk duty earlier in the week than both K and M, would have the same effect in determining the schedule of librarians? So I'm gonna diagram over. So here on these ones, I never really had time to go through them fully. Honestly, this is one where I would always save the end and hope I can get it between two and then answer it. So on these ones, we're trying to find a way that we're trying to find a rule that has the same effects as the rule that we're trying to replace. So we're trying to replace that F must be on, so we're trying to replace rule 3. We're trying to find a rule that makes have F come before M and K. But still have the same, we're trying to find a rule that makes the same chain essentially. So go ahead and take a couple minutes and we'll go through this one. So all right, let's go over this one real quick. So this one says, when it comes to this, I'm looking for one that's not too restrictive, but also not too open. So when I'm just gonna do this one how I approached it because I time myself 8 minutes 45 seconds each time, or I try to at least get close when I first do it. I actually do it on paper first, then translate it over here. But when I was going through this one, I was running a little slow because it was a longer game. So 18, the answer is C. So the way I like to do it is I like to go say, okay, Flynn cannot be on desk duty on Thursday. That sounds not restrictive enough. Flynn could then be on Wednesday. Flynn could theoretically M and K could come before Flynn then. So I would cross off A immediately without even trying anything. And saying only Flynn or Hill can be on desk duty on Monday. No, I thought this one had promise. But if Hill's on desk duty on Monday, then F is on, it doesn't necessarily say that F can be anywhere else. It doesn't restrict F to be before M and K, right? So we could put L on Tuesday, and then F on Wednesday, and then F on Thursday, and Wednesday could be K, and then Z later on. So that one doesn't work either because it's not restrictive enough. So that's how I eliminated A and B. Let's move on to D and E. So D says F must be on desk duty earlier in the week than both G and K. So although it says that M could still be before F then, even though it's before, it could be MFG and not necessarily FMG. And the same thing goes with E, because when I see D and E look so similar and see that like they're just reverse of each other, so G and K versus M and Z, and see how in the chain these kind of play similar roles, they're probably both not going to be incorrect because there's two of them, if that makes sense. Now, if it was like F before both G and Z, then that one might have merit, but because they're reverse of each other, I crossed both those out and got C. Because if it says only H and L can be before can be earlier than F, we then know F has to come before M and K. No matter what. I know that one's a little confusing. Is there any questions on that one?
Just to clarify, Michael, so you eliminated D because it had no mention of what would happen to M. There's no guarantee. F will come before K and M because it just says
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, Josh. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. All right, now are there any questions on this one or this game in total?